It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, today we're going to jump on the Sharp Interactive board. Kyocera published their first half of FY ending March 2023. Folks, I got to do a big clap, a big shout out to the Kyocera leadership. Congratulations. Kyocera continuously delivers operating profit. Folks, I got a chart in here I'm going to show you. They continuously deliver operating profit, and they should be applauded for that because the times that we're all in are tough, especially those friends of mine that sell, supply, and service print equipment. We know we have a lot of challenges ahead. It'll be important that our OEMs have a financial stability to lead us through these challenges. And Kyocera obviously has really good leadership when it comes to delivering operating profit. They do a great job with that, regardless of the hiccups that they occasionally run into. And they've had a hiccup. They had a hiccup in their communications business, but you know, the one thing about Kyocera, when one of their divisions has a hiccup, it doesn't drag down the whole company. A lot of times some of the OEMs out there like to blame some of their other divisions for their, disastrous results. And in all reality, these divisions are kind of on their own, okay? And they have to perform well, and they have to be managed well. And I'm sure, based on what you see with Kyocera and their history, they'll fix the hiccup in communications pretty quickly. But let's jump on the Sharp Interactive board. I put this slide together before we get into the Kyocera numbers, and I want to show you this slide. This slide has all the major players' logos. Let me just read these really quick. Xerox, HP, Ricoh, Kyocera, Canon, Sharp, Konica Minolta, Toshiba Tech, Fuji Business Innovation, Epson, Brother, 9-Star, and under the 9-Star umbrella, we got Lexmark and Pantone. Folks, we got a lot of players in the space. We know we have to consolidate. When you look at them all on one sheet, you think to yourself, holy man, we got way too many players. So we know we got some consolidation coming. But I put two questions at the top of this slide. The first question says, where is the industry going? And the second question says, where are the end users going? Where's the industry going? Where are the end users going? And I'm going to add this. Are they going to meet each other there? Because honestly, when I look at some of the players on the space here, I wonder. And I want to share some of my thoughts about the future of business print as I talk about Kyocera and their financials. Folks, here's the bottom line. Without business print, every single one of these logos has a big issue because business print is where they get the money for the divisions where they have print, okay? It's all about the business print. You lose the business print, it's a mess, okay? And as businesses continue to print less, it's a problem. As businesses move from A3 to A4, it's a problem. And I want to share some of my thoughts on the future of business print. I put some words down here. Data. Folks, we got to start looking at data. We really got to start paying attention to data. I want to ask all of my friends a question. Have you looked at your A4 volume compared to your A3 volume and where it is to where it was pre-COVID in 2019? Or are you just looking at your whole company's volume? I strongly suggest you peel that up a little bit. Look at the A4 volume. You're going to find that your A4 volume is probably pretty close to where it was pre-COVID. It's off, but it's not off anywhere near what the A3 is. We hear a lot of people talking about we want to get back to the 80%. That 80% number is coming from A4 and A3. But you need to pull them apart because you're going to find out that a lot of your A3s aren't anywhere near 80%. You're also going to determine this, that your A4s and those A4 placements were probably never overspec'd or oversold. They fit the customer application because the customers are getting a little bit closer to where they were in 2019. That should also be an indication of where the whole entire market's going. It's going to A4. I also believe the entire market is going to ink over toner in the business market. I believe as more and more of these A3s are replaced with A4s, those end users are going to select ink over toner. And the reason they're going to select ink over toner is because less service, less human intervention. And quite honestly, ink technology has come a long, long way since just a few short years ago. And it gets better and better every single day. And so we need to be paying attention to ink in the business print applications. I talked not too long ago about how I believe that businesses won't care about printing color in the very near future. Businesses will need to print because they don't have a process that they can eliminate it quite yet, but it's just business print, and they won't need it to be color pie charts and all this fancy color stuff in the business. They're going to consume all of that behind glass like interactive boards and their notebooks and stuff. I talked about that before. So ink, A4, continuous decline in print in the business world puts a lot of pressures on all the people on this board. We know that Kyocera is pretty big in ink. They kicked off that Task Alpha 15,000C. They actually showed that machine at the Vegas show and got a lot of great reviews. There's been a lot of press about that in the media. But folks, you know, this ink technology, Kyocera is pretty good at it. They have some ink technologies they're using in the industrial space, creating ways to print out stuff that we couldn't even have imagined just a few short years ago. So Kyocera is positioned pretty well in the ink space. And here's another thing about Kyocera. I know when I bring this up, some of you are going to start screaming at the camera. But they're the only ones with their own really A4 line. One of the few, okay? I shouldn't say the only ones, but one of the few when you look at the others. A lot of these other folks are getting their A4 from our friends over at 9-Star through Lexmark. Kyocera makes their own A4. They're a manufacturer of A4. Now, a lot of you are saying, I wish they would have made more. I wish they would have made more. The marketplace, decisions on manufacturing, folks, those decisions are a couple years, okay? And, you know, I'm thinking back, you know, if Kyocera and a lot of these folks had to do it over, they would be planning a whole lot more A4 manufacturing. And they would have developed systems to deliver A4, a lot more A4 into the marketplace. But pre-COVID, it was still an A3 world, and the A4 players like Kyocera and Lexmark, as far as that goes, they were competing against A4s. They weren't competing really against A3s. And now they are. And now that A4s are competing against those A3 MFPs, it's going to take a manufacturer that has the ability to deliver those A4s. And I think eventually, now we got some supply chain issues, we all know about those, but eventually Kyocera will be in a really good position because they are a pretty dominant A4 player, especially in the business A4 MFPs. And that's really what I want you all to think about. Think about what I said a little while ago here. A4, for the very first time in our industry's history, is truly competing against an A3. It's got the position to replace the A3, whether that's with the incumbent or whether that's with a competitor that's going to sell closer to the needs of the end user. It's going to happen, folks. We all know it. So there's a lot to think about as the industry navigates through these challenges and changes over the next couple of years. But I believe ink and A4 and business print are going to change drastically. Drastically. So let's look at the numbers. Let's start out with the top line number. This is 6 months in to FY, which ends March 2023. It's $6.8 billion in revenue. Congratulations, that's a nice number. And their operating profit is $516.4 million. They were 1% down behind where they were last year. But you know what? They still delivered a 7.6% operating profit, right? Nothing to sneeze at for 2022, halfway through the year. It's pretty good. And they should be excited about that because a lot of the other folks are struggling immensely. Let's look at this next slide. Let's talk about the place we all live in. Those friends of mine that sell supply and service print equipment. The Document Solutions Group, first half of the year, $1,390 million in revenue. $1,390 million in revenue. Operating profit of $89.6 million. $89.6 million, 6.4%. Folks, there's nothing wrong with 6.4% operating profit in the documents imaging business, if you will, for the first half of the year. That's pretty strong. That's pretty strong. We know what's going on in the marketplace all around us. So again, congratulations. So let's look at these quarterly numbers. I just thought this was interesting, and I just really want to focus on the operating profit over here. But you go back to quarter one of FY 2022, they had a 7.7%. In quarter two, they had 9.5%. Quarter three, they had 8.9%. Quarter four, they had 6.3%. First quarter of 2023, 8.4%. Second quarter, 6.7%. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think about this, this is huge. They've never been below 6%, okay? for over a year and a half at this point, and they had 6.3 in quarter 4, and now they're at 6.7. And I imagine when they hit 6.3, and in this quarter where they hit the 6.7, I can imagine that the leadership brings in some leaders and they have some discussions. I imagine they freak out at the 6% level. I imagine they freak out and they manage that to get it back to where it needs to be. 8, 9, and 10. Aspirations of a lot more than 10. We got to get through the supply chain issues. We got to get through all the problems we're having. And folks, you know, I got to keep repeating this. Orlando Bravo, we cannot be chasing revenue at all costs. We have to focus on profitability. And these conglomerates are going to have to focus on profitability. The divisions within these conglomerates are going to have to focus on profitability. They're going to have to do some things that could be pretty painful to the status quo. Those days are coming quick. Let's look at the aspirations for the whole year. Did they change their projections? You know what, folks? Their forecast is unchanged as a total, and they're going to do 2 trillion yen, which is 13.5 billion. They want to have an operating profit of 1.1 billion. There's no reason to believe that they won't achieve those numbers. But I did notice they changed the document solutions unit. They actually raised it. They raised it by 135 million, and their total is 2.8 billion for the year. So they must be thinking in their minds, we're going to get those A4s out there, and those A4s are going to go out there and compete against the A3s, and we're going to get some business. We're going to get some business. And they also probably seeing some momentum in their Task Alpha 15,000C. Hopefully they got some orders on that thing while they were out in Vegas. But folks, you know, Kyocera is doing some great things, but they're making money. And we can have all the aspirations in the world, but if we can't figure out how to make money, none of that's going to work out. If our only structure for the next year or so is going to be selling off direct operations and selling off assets and struggling, it's going to be hard to innovate. It's going to be hard to put money into R&D. It's going to be hard to put money into M&A. And so a lot of things are going to pressure our industry, pressure in ways that a lot of people just can't even imagine. But I want to go back to this slide real quick. I want to go back to this slide. I want you all to think about this. Which one of these players, which few of these players are going to end up where the customer is? I've talked about Xerox. I shared my thoughts on them. HP is going to be presenting their year end pretty soon. We'll see where they're at. Ricoh and Konica Minolta publish their numbers tomorrow. We'll see where they're at. Today, obviously, we're doing Kyocera. And Canon we've already talked about. But folks, there's just way too many players. And how are these players going to come together? And what are these players going to do individually to make sure they maintain a continuous relevance? So now I want to end with this. I strongly recommend that all of you, let me just pull this up here, that all of you go to the Kyocera website and look at the integrated report. You could find it in Investor Relations. Folks, this is a fantastic report. And I just strongly recommend you all go read that thing. And I want to show you this. They talk about Amoeba Management. Amoeba Management. Let me just read this. The essence of Amoeba Management, a management control method to realize the Kyocera philosophy is to quickly respond to trends of the times and changes in market conditions and flexibility change its organization. As we live in a world of growing uncertainties, we will strive to flexibly respond to environmental changes like Amoeba, and continue to deliver leading-edge products and create new values. Folks, they're looking at the core things they do, and how can they take these core things they do, implement changes, and maybe create another core thing. They're really getting into this. When I look at what they do and when I read about them, I'm starting to think a little bit, they kind of remind me of Foxconn, just a smaller version. I mean, they want to do things around the electrical vehicles, their communications aspirations. There's a lot of aspirations that Kyocera has. And you can have a lot of aspirations. All companies can. But you have to be able to deliver profit to be able to invest, right, in those aspirations and to make those aspirations come true. So Kyocera, congratulations on a great first half. I look forward to seeing how you finish up this year. I believe you'll hit your projections. You know, the world's a crazy place right now. It really is, my friends. But I got to repeat this again because I really liked it when Orlando Bravo said it. You can't chase revenue at all costs. It's time to focus on profit. The Fed's going to raise the rate another 0.75%. Home interest rates right now, what is a mortgage rate? Over 7% for the first time in 30 years. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not out of the woods. Even with supply chain issues getting better, those buyers are going to have issues. Those buyers are going to struggle. And it's going to be the players that can be creative in how they go into the market. It's going to be those sellers that pay attention to the market's needs and they don't try to oversell and overspec and try to implement 1990 policies in our ever-changing 2023 world. Just some things to think about, my friends, because we all know this. Status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all tomorrow.